Jeez, guys, episode 4. Where did the time go? Another week, another video. I don't know about y'all, but they're flying by for me. And if you haven't subscribed already, you got to go down below and hit it. Time's passing you by. The episodes are passing you by. This week, we're going to dismantle stuff and mock things up. You're really finally going to get to see me start the evolution of my front double A-arm conversion that I wanted to do. And you're going to get to see one and only episode of this failed design. And I'll explain at the end of the episode why it is that I didn't decide to go with this. But for now, I don't want to give anything away. Pay attention. There's a lot going on really fast here. And it was kind of difficult for me to edit it in a way that made sense. So I hope it kind of comes across okay for you guys. I was really starting to dive deep and learn all the wrong ways to do it. As always too, if you like the shirt I'm wearing or you want to look into the parts that we now make for these trucks and other vehicles, you can go to Innovaspeed.com. But I don't want to take away from the video. Let's get to it. Hey guys, something important I forgot to point out before I started cutting there is that you really have to weld that support bar across your frame rails or they're going to collapse in. I wish I had actually done 2 of them. Makes a huge mess like you see, but the result is totally worth it. If you can borrow a plasma cutter or afford to buy your own or already have one, that's definitely a way to go, but you can do it with a grinder. This is the result, though, you're looking for to get this far.
So I just kind of jacked it up into place.
Okay, yeah, let's probably explain, because some of you are looking at this in this video going, what in the hell is that subframe? For some reason I did not film anything about it. I'm sorry for that, so I'll try and give you some context now, because for some reason I'm a flipping hoarder and I still have this thing. This started off as a 2006, I think it is, S197 Mustang front subframe and lower control arms. This is after some hackery you'll see later in the video, but the idea behind this was, how do I make my life the easiest thing I can do? I wanted readily available braking components that perform pretty well with a lot of upgrade options. I wanted to not have to design my own whole front subframe. Newsflash, didn't avoid that. And then just really kind of give myself an easier foundation to start with. This is going to be the only video you ever see that this component in, and there is reasons for that, and I'll explain them later. This has really nice clearance for steering, nice wide wheels at a pretty good amount of steering angle. Not that I want to go drifting, but I wanted to be able to turn pretty sharp, especially for a pickup truck. They're pretty strong, and they actually, before I did a bunch of hackery, it had a kind of built-in motor mounts, and I thought that would make life easier. They would have been in the wrong place anyway, so that's why I was okay cutting them. And then in the rear, I thought I could modify this kind of lower section here to come back to the frame. And then essentially you would have something that would bolt in, or it had a lot of really good triangulation welded into the frame. Some plans just aren't meant to work out.
My only concern, I think I need to trim out that channel where the sleeves bolt into the factory car. So I'm probably just gonna cut those like here-ish and weld it against the bottom of the chassis, because this will make the ride height too tall. I have a distinct feeling that in order to get ride height right, I need to take this back mount that's originally on the Mustang and raise it up essentially level with the bottom of the frame. Obviously I needed a break from sheet metal work. I actually didn't burn through that much. It always looks ugly doing sheet metal. It's really not that bad. And then these were just giant holes, so I just kind of globbed them in there. I think it's actually okay. I'll grind all that smooth, but I want to do them all and then I'll grind them all at once. So yeah. I'm trying, I'm working on it. It's just held up there with the jack. But I need to make some changes when it comes to ride height for sure. It's just a long process. You don't necessarily realize when you take one of these projects on by yourself how much there is to do by yourself, and you have to kind of like think everything 3 steps forward to make sure you don't hurt yourself. So we'll get there. I'm having fun for sure. I just gotta fight through these moments where like I see, oh god, now I have to cut this subframe, and like it can be a little disheartening because it feels like it kind of never ends. But it does, so it's all good. I kind of want to throw the passenger side fender on there just to kind of get a feel for where the wheel sits, and then go from there. So I'm probably gonna work on that now. Oh, the joys of custom suspensions on all the wrong chassis. Yeah, so I'm gonna kind of sit down, run some numbers, and just kind of get a overall feel for things, and then go from there. See what we get. This thing's way wider than the Cobra IRS. Well, not Cobra. Mark 8 with the Cobra diff, same diff. So this fits way better. Bed's off. And time for you to go back to retirement and live far, far away. Okay, so why did I not use this? As promised, I'll explain right now.
Basically, there's a couple main factors with it. The most important of all is that it's designed for a McPherson strut suspension, not double A-arm, which means those lower control arms and ball joints are not designed to take all that suspension load. As light as I wanted to make the truck, it still has weight to it, and you're still gonna have corner forces really just putting everything under a lot of stress. And I was very, very, very worried about ball joint and or spindle failure as a result of me using all these components in the wrong way, potentially the worst possible way I could. The other thing about it, I kept having to cut material away from the subframe to get it up higher in the frame and try and get everything aligned where it needed to be the correct geometry at my desired ride height. And so the more I cut away, the worse the subframe fit. And it just seemed like it was going down this rabbit hole of like, man, I'm gonna end up spending a ton of time and effort to try and make this work. And so I had to kind of sit back and go, all right, can I use any of this? I will go ahead and give you a clue about next week's video. Yes, we did use a number of components, but this subframe was definitely gonna become a major hurdle for me, and so that's it. After this episode, for some reason I never talked about it or anything like that. I just didn't ever use it again. And I did have people reach out to me when I was building it on the Pro Touring forums and things like that, and they were like, hey, here's some other ideas. And so that was also a catalyst as well. So I do want to thank those people, especially if some of you have followed me here to YouTube, but that's why I didn't use it. It was going to be unsafe, and it was too much of a hassle to do it. So sometimes the greatest, most simplistic ideas need to be more complicated to get the job done right, and so that's where we headed next. The total extreme opposite. So don't forget, subscribe below if you haven't already. Tune into next week's video. You're gonna get to see what we went to next, which is a very early evolution of my scratch-made cross member and front suspension stuff, where I really started diving into the intricacies of designing geometry from scratch. Thanks, guys. See you next week.